Breaking news right here on SportsCenter. Less than 24 hours after Orlando's Game 7 loss to Detroit, the Magic firing head coach Jamal Mosley. Mosley led Orlando through a rebuild and to the playoffs each of the past 3 years, but failed to make it out of the first round. The Magic were expected to be among the East's top teams this season, but battled injuries and got into the postseason through the play-in. Now, in the Mosley era in Orlando, the Magic sat at the bottom of the league in three-point field goals made per game. They ranked 24th in the regular season this year after finishing last over the previous 2 seasons. And more breaking news. The Mavericks are already in their rebuilding phase, but now have a new architect. Dallas announcing today has hired former Raptors and Nuggets executive Masai Ujiri to be the Mavs' new president. Ujiri stepping into the role left open by the firing of Nico Harrison earlier this season. We have 2 Game 1s tipping off tonight. The Knicks hosting the 76ers and the Spurs hosting the Timberwolves. And we've got you covered on both games with everything you need to know at 2 p.m. Eastern. Look at this lineup. Anthony Slater with the Timberwolves, Janae Agumake in L.A., Vinny Goodwill covering the Knicks, Tim Bontemps with the Sixers. But let us start in Minnesota. And this is new on SportsCenter. Anthony Edwards at shoot-around today. The Wolves closing out their first-round series against Denver without Edwards, but might get him back tonight. He is listed as questionable for Game 1 against the Spurs after suffering a knee injury that was expected to sideline him multiple weeks. Instead, Ant may end up missing just 2 games if he suits up in San Antonio tonight. NBA reporter Anthony Slater joining us now live. Anthony, you were just at Wolves shoot-around. What's the latest on Anthony Edwards and his status for tonight?
Yeah, Anthony Edwards was out here a couple hours ago. And when we walked in, where reporters were let in, he was putting a sleeve on his left, injured knee. And then after that, he got out and he took some, normal, I guess, rhythm jumpers. I saw him doing a couple like one dribble step back type moves, maybe testing that knee a little bit. This is a urgent, rushed moment for Edwards on the knee. It was 9 days ago. You probably remember the video of how it bent backwards, hyperextended bone bruise. This is very much on the front end of a theoretical recovery time. But as Julius Randle said this morning, he calls him Wolverine for a reason. This guy heals very quickly. I think it's a little stunning to a lot of people that it might be Game 1. But I think even if it's not tonight, what the Spurs now know is they are going to see Anthony Edwards in this series, and probably pretty soon.
That is an appropriate nickname, Wolverine. The Wolves, by the way, 15-10 without Edwards in the lineup this season. We'll see if he can go tonight. Anthony, thank you so much for the insight. We appreciate you. Let's bring Janae Agumake into the conversation. Janae, if Ant is able to go, what will you be watching closely in Minnesota's offense?
I feel like 99.9999% of the world will be watching Anthony Edwards. I'm a little different. I'm the 0.0001 where I actually want to go deep cut and watch the supporting cast, watch the stars in their roles, because they have been showing out over the course of this entire playoffs. Jaden McDaniels, that man right there, wanted the smoke, and he delivered. Last game, he had 32 points. Terrence Shannon, a revelation coming in, dropping 24 points in that Game 6 game. And then, of course, questionable, but probably optimistic at this point, hopefully, based off of what we're hearing from the Timberwolves, Ayo Dosunmu, who had 40-plus in the series in one game, him having an impact. The supporting cast, will their momentum continue alongside Anthony Edwards, or is it more going to be like Anthony Edwards is available and we'll see the impact of him being reinserted into the lineup? I'm going to watch the supporting cast because they have been the heart and soul of what the Timberwolves have done, and it'll be cool to see if that they can get all together playing their best version of basketball to really compete against the Spurs squad.
Okay. Janae, you stay right there. More from you in just a sec. Right now, the Sixers, fresh off their Game 7 win against the Celtics, are in New York, taking on the Knicks tonight. Joel Embiid listed as probable tonight with a right hip contusion. He went down a few times after getting hit in his knees in Philly's Game 7 win over Boston. After the game, Embiid making light of it, saying, "I felt great. I feel amazing. I was faking it." Bring in NBA reporter Tim Bontemps. Tim, Embiid's health has been an issue in postseasons past, but he played well in the Boston series, helping lead their comeback. What more can you tell us about him heading into this Knicks series?
Well, as you said, Jay, after that Game 7 win in which Joel Embiid had 34 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists, might have been the best game of his playoff career. When he got up to the podium after falling down, getting his legs fallen into several times, he was cracking a lot of jokes at the expense of Peyton Pritchard from the Celtics, at the expense of the Celtics as a whole. He was feeling very good. He talked about the fact that the Sixers have to try to make sure that the home games in this series do not turn into Madison Square Garden East like they did a couple years ago when these two teams played in the first round of the playoffs. And when Embiid is cracking jokes and talking like that, it's usually a good sign that he's feeling good. And as you said, on the injury report, he's only listed as probable with that hip contusion. No issues with his knees coming out of that Game 7 when, as you said, he did get fallen into a couple of times. He was at shoot-around this morning, as expected, and the Sixers are excited to be still playing. Obviously came back from down 3-1 for the first time in franchise history. They'd been 0-18 before that, and Embiid has a very long history with Karl Anthony Towns. The two have gone at it a lot over the course of their careers, and that is going to be an incredibly interesting matchup to watch in this series beginning tonight at 8 o'clock when these two teams square off in Game 1 at MSG.
What's the Sixers' mood heading into this series, considering the comeback that they had to make against the Celtics?
I mean, Jay, they're really excited to keep playing. I mean, this is a Sixers team that throughout the season never really had their full complement of players. They had Paul George get suspended for 25 games, missing most of the back half of the season. They start to get on a run down to the end of the regular season. Then Joel Embiid has an appendectomy 3.5 weeks ago. Doesn't look like he's going to be available potentially for their first round series at all. But then in the span of 5 days, they win games 5, 6, and 7. They completely flip the series around. Embiid has maybe the best 5-day stretch of his postseason career. And now they come into the series against the Knicks feeling incredibly confident about the momentum they've built and the fact that they're walking into this series fully healthy. Because as you know, Jay, the question with the Sixers going back to when they signed Paul George a couple of years ago has never been the talent on the roster. It's been whether that talent will be available. And after a season where there's been all sorts of fits and starts, their guys are all healthy and ready to go to start this series against the Knicks, and we'll see how they play tonight.
Should be a good one. Tim, thank you so much. See more with you a little bit later. Now, Embiid was still in the mind of Jaylen Brown after Boston's Game 7 loss to Philly. Brown saying on his Twitch stream that the refs, quote, had an agenda, unquote, against the Celtics in Game 7 and broke down video he thought showed a double standard in calls. But Brown saved special criticism for Mr. Embiid, even using the F word, flopping. Take a listen.
This is my personal opinion on basketball. Some of y'all might disagree. You know what I mean? But argue with your grandma. Flopping has ruined our game. Joel Embiid is a great player, one of the best bigs in basketball history. Flops. He know it. This ain't breaking news. This ain't, you know what I mean? It is what it is.
Okay. Let's go back to Chanae. What's your reaction to Jaylen's comments about Joel?
It's not what you say. It's kind of how you say it, and also when you say it. Fresh off a loss on a Twitch stream where everyone's tuning in because they want to know your thoughts after a really tough collapse versus the Philadelphia 76ers, I would just say maybe give it a week before you give us your true thoughts. Now, it is 2026, and this is the nature. People are more candid. Players take control of their narratives, and they're not afraid of the media anymore, or at least sharing their opinions. And I do think that Jaylen Brown has embraced this villain role because people have sort of seen him as such, especially the second half of the season. I'll never forget when he got ejected versus the Spurs when he was trying to ascend to become an MVP, and he was very vocal. He's been consistently vocal. I would just say this. The sky is blue, gas prices are high, Joel Embiid embellishes on plays. We all know this. It's more the manner in which he went about to share it that is more problematic.
I like how you said all that. That was nice. Janae, hang right there. Be back to you in a minute.
I got you.
These teams, they split their regular season matchups and by pretty small margins. Each team taking both wins on the road. The Sixers lead teams this postseason with 3 wins away from home. Vinny Goodwill going to be covering the Knicks in this series with the Sixers. Vinny, what have the Knicks said about the significance of those 4 regular season meetings?
Well, Jay, Josh Hart said the same thing about the regular season that you probably would say, is that it's idiotic to compare the regular season to the playoffs when looking at this particular matchup. He said when there's back-to-backs and schedules and injuries, there's no point in looking at it when you're looking at these 2 teams. He said those games are flushed at this point. He did say, though, that the group chat was popping during Game 7 of Celtics 76ers, and he is happy that he does not have to pack to go to Boston, which is where they would have gone had they been playing the Celtics for Game 1 tonight.
Hey, Vinny, we talked about Joel Embiid with Tim Bontemps a few seconds ago, and both Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe are coming off strong series as well. What sort of challenge do those two players pose defensively for New York?
It's like going from listening to a podcast at 1 time speed to times 2.5. That is what Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe do compared to CJ McCollum. And that's where the Knicks are going to have a little bit of a matchup problem. Josh Hart is the guy that wants to slow them down. Josh Hart is going to have to choose, or the Knicks are going to have to choose, which of those players he's going to have to deploy, because we know Jalen Brunson is not a defensive stopper. Josh Hart said, hopefully the refs will allow me to be physical so that I can slow them down myself. We all know, especially with Embiid and how he's played, averaging 32 in the 2 games that he's played against the Knicks, fouling out Karl Towns in 16 minutes and 1, officiating is going to be a huge emphasis in this series on both sides of the ball.
Looking forward to it, Vinny. Thank you so much for your insight. Let's go back to Chiney right now. Chiney, fill in the blank for me. New York wins game 1 if
the cat stays on the attack. Karl Anthony Towns remains in attack mode. Finally, I'm so happy the New York Knicks have realized that he is truly the centerpiece. Literally, he's the most important piece as a center. And when they started running the offense through him, they got great results. He had 2 triple-doubles in the postseason. He's a facilitator. In some ways, I feel offended on his behalf because it's like they underestimated his capabilities. It was very much in a box. You can shoot threes, and I'm not sure about the paint, but he's aggressive getting downhill. He wants the ball in the low post. He wants to be able to make plays. He wants to be important, and finally, they treated him as such, and they got the right result. So keep that same energy. He is the main character for them, especially in a series going up against another tremendous center in Joel Embiid.
All right, we'll see if the energy is kept. Chiney, thank you so much. NFL rookies have started reporting to camp. Fernando Mendoza